Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Popeye's Scary Good new Freddy Fazbear Box has garlic palm tenders and cheesy bites with marinara sauce. Try it before it's too late. And see Five Nights at Freddy's 2, only in theaters. Love that chicken from Popeyes. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come into America.
Good morning, New York. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here Sunday morning. A great show for you today. Steve Cates, what's going on up there in the skies? Senator George Borrello, what's going on in New York State? Governor David Paterson, the Democratic point of view. Hank Scheinkoff, is the city going to survive? And we have John Terrett on what happened on Wall Street. Governor George Pataki. Martin Hasner, the chairman of the Liberal Party. What's the difference between the Liberal Party and the Democratic Socialist Party? Spiro Georgiadakis, and he runs a company called Greek Mover. In case you want to move down to Florida, you have to call the Greek Mover. And let's start off, like every Sunday, with Michael Stoller on the Real Estate Report.
Good morning, this is Mike Stoller for the Stoller Real Estate Report. What's happening in the investment sales business in New York? What's happening with regard to nonprofits owning and selling property? I have the specialist on that. I have my friend Mike Tortorici, founder and a principal at Ariel Property Advisors. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here, Michael. Thanks for having me.
You specialize in faith-based investments. Explain that type of topic.
A lot of the groups that I work with these days are faith-based organizations that are looking to figure out ways to leverage their real estate to better pursue their missions. So what do I mean by that? A good example is Gary Barnett. I wasn't involved with this transaction, but Gary Barnett just purchased air rights from a Midtown church for about $36 million, air rights that I believe were unlocked from the City of Yes program. So now that religious facility has the ability to take that, support their building, support their other programs, and put their air rights to work in ways that they previously weren't able to do.
Which I'm going to ask you to explain that, but explain what the City of Yes program is.
Sure. So the City of Yes is the biggest rewrite of the zoning code in New York City in, I think it's 60 or 70 or something along those lines. A part of that's really helped faith-based nonprofits in three ways. One, it opened up air rights sales. So previously, if you were a landmarked building, you had the ability to sell your air to your adjacent neighbors, or maybe you could go across the street, but you'd have to go through a very lengthy and cumbersome approval process with the city. It was so cumbersome that only a dozen or 2 dozen air rights sales from landmarks occurred as long as that was available. What City of Yes did is it expanded the way that it opened up the market for where these air rights can go. So instead of just going across the street or to your adjacent neighbor, you can basically go all around a particular block to other potential receiving sites.
How far? Is it one block or is it
one block that kind of faces your property? So if, let's say, I'm on the corner of Fifth Avenue and 55th Street, I can go across the street. I can go catty corner both ways, and I can go 1 Avenue west to the block that faces the block that I'm on. And it really opened up a wide array.
Much more flexibility in the larger.
More flexibility. I mean, if I had my druthers, it would be even more flexible. It would be the ability to transfer within a particular community district, just like they did with inclusionary housing. Because the challenges that I see over and over again with these properties is they're very expensive. Landmark buildings are very expensive to maintain. You're placing a huge burden on these organizations that give so much back to the city, and we should give them the resources that they need through their air to support that mission of preserving properties, but also letting them thrive with these resources. So the more we can do as a city to support that, I think it's a win-win across the board. It's a win-win for the nonprofit. It's a win-win for our housing market, which desperately needs housing. This was a good start, but my hope is that it's the first step.
With regard to transactions, can you talk about some of the transactions that you've recently seen?
Sure. I mean, as you mentioned, I'm working with a lot of faith-based organizations. They're trying to approach their real estate. Each one tries to approach it a different way. Each one faces its own challenges. So there was a site that we sold in Park Slope. It was a rundown church 30, 40, 50 years ago. There was a big need for these for their services in Park Slope. Today, the community isn't using it as much. So the church packed up. They sold their property for about $500 a buildable square foot, and they deployed those resources in an area of the North Bronx that is more fulfilling of the needs of the community and what they're looking to serve. Another example that we recently had was a property in the Bronx. You know, I see this all the time where it's a congregation of about 60, 70 people that fits inside a meeting hall, a former theater, that's about 20,000 square feet, way much more than they need. They sold that for about $110 a square foot, which they then used to downsize, go into a warehouse nearby, and just really streamline kind of their operation. Another thing that we're seeing is sales with condo buildbacks. So we're working on one right now in Ditmas Park, a 44,000 buildable square foot site, and the church is looking to basically monetize that, but then have a condo built back for them that's about 5,000 square feet. And then on top of that, we also have ground leases are something that's very popular when it's doable. You need a certain amount of scale to do a ground lease. I'd say at least 50, 60,000 square feet to get an audience that makes it worth the time and the cost and the effort that it does to do a ground lease. But it's something that's very popular, and we're doing one right now also in the Bronx for a landmarked church that has a huge campus next to it. They'll be ground leasing the property to an affordable housing developer. They'll be getting money up front and then a to restore their church, and then a residual cash flow for 99 years that will help them expand programming and improve their presence in the Bronx.
There are a great number of good brokers around, and I'm very happy to have you and your partners on the show during the focus of the year. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Good Greek Moving. It's the name of a company based in Florida, run by Spiro Georgiodakis. See, I got trouble with Greek names, too. Spiro, what's going on?
Yes. Thank you, John. Thank you so much. You said it perfectly. That's why they call me the Good Greek. A lot of people have trouble pronouncing my last name, not just you.
Now, your family is from the island of Crete.
That's right. Both my parents immigrated from Crete, and my mom's no longer with us, but my father's still 85 years strong here in Florida with us.
Now, what made you start in this business? It's a moving company. Now, I think you're moving people from New York to Florida. And I understand you just opened up offices in Las Vegas. Are people leaving California for Las Vegas?
To answer that question first, yes. They've been leaving California for several different states, Nevada, Las Vegas being one of them for sure. A lot of people moving to Utah, Texas, of course, and believe it or not, they are coming all the way across to Florida as well from California.
The latest statistics, California is losing one citizen every 1 minute.
I wouldn't doubt it, John, and it's one of the reasons why we opened up in Las Vegas was because I didn't want to actually have a location in California, but, 3.5 hours away, I can service a lot of good people that need help. It's one thing you want to leave an area because it's no longer home to you or whatever the factors are, but it's another thing to get taken advantage of in the relocation process as well. And so I recognize that with these mass exoduses, a lot of people can get taken advantage of. So we are the National Mover of the Year, and we take care of our clients.
And right now, how is the exodus from New York City to Florida?
You know, we started advertising in New York, and it's not the first time. I do that for long-distance purposes, and we are getting quite a bit of business. Now, a lot of those people may have been predetermined, right, because Florida is a popular retirement location for New Yorkers and Northeasterners. But we can't ignore the fact that a lot of people are going to leave because of concerns or, you know, whatever transpires going forward here now.
Well, you know, the numbers don't make sense in New York City, and people right now are concerned. They're concerned that that New York, the quality of life under the new mayor, may change. So a lot of people, you know, the exodus may start.
Yeah, I believe that, and for that reason, we want to help. Right? There's not enough movers, not enough good movers in any one state. So when you know you have a good service, a good product, and you know people are going to be leaving en masse, again, I don't want to see my fellow New Yorkers, you know, I was born and raised in New York, I don't want to see them get taken advantage of, especially since, you know, you asked me how I got into this business. Before moving, I was a police officer in Miami. I was on the SWAT team, and the only thing I knew about the moving and storage business at that time was that there's a lot of bad characters, right? And I would see it from that side of the perspective. But, you know, once I got an opportunity with a couple of fellows to go into business, I realized that we can do this the right way, okay? Background checking people and drug testing and making sure that they're citizens with a Class A license that was earned properly, you know, the right way. And that's how we became the best. I mean, I took what I learned from law enforcement, applied it into my business practices, and here we are.
So you were a cop in Miami?
Yeah, I was a cop in North Miami, yeah. I was
what years are those?
1990 to 97. Yeah, that was, I'll tell you what, it was an experience, John. I went there because the NYPD wasn't hiring at the time, and I was an eager young man who wanted to be a police officer. So I had some family in Miami. I took a shot at 18 years old, and a year later at 19, which I don't think they do anymore, I got hired. So I was a policeman from age of 19 to 26.
The name of the company is Good Greek Moving. Is there a website?
Absolutely. Yeah, Good Greek Moving and Storage, and the website is very easy. It's goodgreek.com. Goodgreek.com.
Oh, I can't get easier than that. Goodgreek.com. Okay, I'm going to go to that website and see what it's going to cost. We built a new building in St. Pete, the tallest tower in the west coast of Florida.
That's amazing. I'm actually in Tampa right now.
People are starting to move in.
Right now. Yeah.
Well, Spiro.
Yeah, I bounce speed.
See, I said in Greek, Spiro Georgadakis of goodgreek.com. God bless you and God bless America. And I hope America is the way we grew up.
I'm doing my part. I'm doing my very small part, John. And thank you for what you do. You do a big part. So God bless you. I love you guys. I love your station. And let's keep pumping America.
Thank you, Spiro. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. Every Sunday morning, David Patterson, Governor David Patterson. Governor, what is in store for us this Sunday morning?
I have a view of the immigration policy that is being conducted by the administration right now, and that view might sort of surprise some people, but I'm in agreement with it. There are a number of people in this country who got in over the period from 2021 to the end of 2024 under the Biden administration. There's no disputing that actually happened. Because of it and the continuation of it, we've got a lot of people who live in this country who we really don't know. And we found out that we didn't know one of them the Tuesday before Thanksgiving when he shot and killed the Army Reserve officer. So I think that it's a good policy. I know a lot of my colleagues would oppose it and that kind of thing, but I think it's good. There is one issue with the policy, though, that I don't like, and I really think after the excellent work they're doing to do this sullies the process for them, which is that the administration's made it very clear that the blue states that don't comply and don't allow them to see the records that they seek, that they will deny them resources, and the red states who, obviously willingly will do whatever the president asks, will receive more money. That kind of confrontation between blue states and red states is supposed to take place at the polling facility on Election Day, either for president or in the off years. I think it has no place in an argument about immigration that they've already won. Sometimes you have to understand that you're actually winning, and there's no, just because somebody else is down, you don't have to kick them. And I
think you have to explain it right.
Yeah, I think that would actually help. And basically, based on the response that the states are giving, you never have to say, identify them as blue states or red states. They are either cooperating states or uncooperating states. And if you don't know how to do that, to me, it just demonstrates a poor judgment and too much of an emphasis on politics, which they're the ones that are always saying that they don't want there to be as much politics. But as I said, other than that, I think the idea of drilling down on who's coming into the country or who came into the country and hasn't been apprehended is fair enough.
Well, it seems like we got too many people in, and nobody really audited who's coming and going.
Yeah, that's the problem. In other words, there isn't the type of system. I would say that the system that they are trying to enforce right now is probably the system that existed 30, 40 years ago, and nobody really complained about it. It was just, if you're trying to come to this country, there's certain things you had to prove, and if you were accepted, obviously they would check in with you to make sure that you're not a hindrance or a threat to the society, and it would work out fine. And that's probably where we'll wind up at this particular time. But I don't think that you have to taint it by talking about what color the states are that they're going to work with and the color of the states they won't.
What else would you like to say this Sunday morning?
Well, there's a real sort of interesting situation occurring now as Mayor-elect Mamdani is about to take office. He's made himself far more available. It wasn't just his meeting with President Trump, but he's meeting with a lot of people and seems to be listening to some of them, which is, I think, quite surprising based on the way he campaigned. And if he just can continue to stay in that realm where he is right now, I think it will actually help him. But now, as mayor-elect, he's not even mayor yet, he is seemingly really getting down to business and trying to address a lot of these issues. And an issue came up to him recently. I saw this interview with him about a number of vendors to the city that hadn't been paid. And he said, when I get there, we're going to make sure every single one of those vendors gets paid. I mean, he put himself out there to do that. If he can maintain that conduct that he's demonstrated over the past month and a half, things may not be as bad as we might have thought.
Thank you again for the update. Anything else you want to tell the people this Sunday morning?
No, John, I think I've tried to run out the clock because clearly it's difficult for you as it is for all of us when we catch a cold. But I'll be looking forward to next Sunday when you're back to your top peak of health.
We look forward, and we'll talk again real soon. Thank you.
Take care.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Senator George Borrello. He's a state senator from
the farthest west coast of New York State, Chautauqua County.
Chautauqua County. All right. And I've been there, and there's a lot of beautiful, great people out there.
Thank you. We love it.
Tell us what the heck is going on that's going to affect the west coast of New York and affect New York City.
Well, all of New York State, really, John. And look, in light of what we were seeing now, as the federal government has been pushing states to release information about their welfare programs, Medicaid, all these SNAP programs, we're finding is that there's a tremendous amount of fraud. Hundreds of billions of dollars in fraud. The most recent we've seen over in Minnesota, where it looks like $1 billion that the governor authorized that was actually funneled to terrorist organizations, and all kinds of fraud taking place. And now back here to New York, where Governor Kathy Hochul is refusing to give information on SNAP recipients in New York State. Her only excuse is
not everybody knows what SNAP is. Tell the people exactly what SNAP is.
Sure, that is the Supplemental Nutrition Program. This used to be called food stamps. Food stamps is now referred to as SNAP, and this is a nutrition program that is supposed to feed those of us who can't feed themselves. It has turned into a real boondoggle, and there's tremendous amounts of waste, fraud, and abuse in that program, as there are in most welfare programs, but particularly here in New York State, where the governor has refused the federal government's request to verify and give information on all the SNAP benefits. Again, she claims this flimsy claim that it's a privacy issue. Well, I don't understand how receiving a public benefit can be a privacy issue, particularly for the government entity that's providing that benefit. So that's a ridiculous excuse. It's because she knows that there are a lot of fraudulent programs and a lot of fraudulent recipients. So far, nearly 200,000 people that are already deceased, still collecting benefits, have been discovered by the federal government across the country for the 28 states that have submitted their information. So Governor Hochul, in light of this scandal, in light of the $1 billion we're seeing that was funneled to terrorist organizations in Minnesota, she's refusing to cooperate and comply. It's absolutely outrageous.
I know about the case in Minnesota, and how does $1 billion end up in Africa and Somalia? I mean, that is mind-boggling. I mean, there had to be a lot of people in key spots in our government that knew about it.
Absolutely. And first and foremost, unfortunately now in our government, $1 billion is nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. In the private sector, for those of us that actually have to work for a living and employ people, $1 billion is a lot of money. But in the federal government, it's now unfortunately chump change, which is why we're in the multi-trillion-dollar deficit we are here in this nation. But here in New York, it gets worse. We already have identified by Tom DiNapoli, a fellow Democrat. He's already identified billions of dollars in waste, fraud, and abuse in programs like Medicaid, the non-emergency medical transportation program, which is another fleecing of New York State taxpayers. The Medicaid missing million. This was uncovered by the Empire Center, where they foiled the qualifications for everyone on Medicaid in New York State, and the Medicaid offices essentially refused to provide the information for the last million people, nearly 1 million people, that New York State government cannot or will not verify are qualified to actually receive Medicaid, yet New York State taxpayers and the federal government are supplying those folks with Medicaid. It's absolutely outrageous. Right now, what we saw in Minnesota is a drop in the bucket compared to what's going on right now here in New York State. That's already been identified by the Office of the State Comptroller and good government groups like the Empire Center.
Oh, those millions of dollars that those people got, they're going to vote for the Democrats that got it for them.
Well, that's the problem. I think really what we have to be focused on is that you still remember that the folks that are out there working hard every day, paying their taxes, carrying the load for themselves and their family, they're the ones paying for this. And as we have a increasing number of people that are on the government dole, it is a challenge. There's no doubt about it. But I still believe the vast majority of New Yorkers are honest folks that want to just do the right thing, that pay their taxes, and want to be productive members of our state and our society.
Bottom line, the honest folks have to vote, all of them, for honesty and integrity, so the people that are getting the free money, even though they vote for the people that are giving it to them, that will get honesty and integrity back elected.
That's it. This is not about Republican or Democrat, John. You're absolutely right. It's about honest people, hardworking people that are paying their fair share, standing together. It should not be about which party you are a member of. And that is really the ultimate message. You're right.
All we want is honesty and integrity. And listen, the only thing holding us together is President Trump right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and look, as much as people have been outraged and clutching their pearls over the federal government asking to verify or for people to reapply, to verify that these people exist, the reality is it's exposed all this waste, fraud, and abuse. And that was really the purpose to begin with.
Is that like
John,
how many dead people were receiving Social Security?
Absolutely outrageous. And, and unfortunately in blue states like New York, it's where the concentration. New York and California are disproportionately responsible for a lot of the waste, fraud, and abuse in our systems of government. And look, the bottom line is people need to understand that we cannot continue to borrow trillions of dollars to provide services. Last year alone, the federal government borrowed $2 trillion with a T, $2 trillion just to provide those services. So this is beyond taxpayer money. This is money we're borrowing from our future generations in order to supply.
We wouldn't have to borrow it if the swamp wasn't swallowing it.
Exactly. Someone said, the Wall Street Journal said it best. They said that someone's stealing from the cookie jar, and the government just keeps putting more cookies into the jar. That's exactly what's going on, across this nation.
Senator George Borrello, God bless you and God bless America. Thank you so much.
God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us is Governor George Pataki. Governor Pataki, tell us what the heck is going on.
First of all, we have the Mondami election in New York, and he wants higher taxes. He wants free everything that doesn't work, and that's a great concern. But what really troubles me today is I'm reading where Governor Hochul is considering raising taxes in Albany. It's bad enough the way things are now. If she goes ahead and raises taxes on New Yorkers again, I think there comes a point where it becomes the straw that breaks the camel's back.
What do you think is going to happen?
Well, it's Albany, and they get back in session, the beginning of next year. It's a one-party system. The Democrats control everything. I think they're looking at Mondami's victory and thinking, oh, my God, I could have a primary, so we better raise taxes. Mondami wants to raise taxes, and I'm afraid that Hochul and the legislature are going to go along with it. And I'll tell you, John, New York just can't afford this. We have taxes that are already too high, regulations that are too severe. New Yorkers have been leaving New York in droves for places like Florida and Texas. And if they raise taxes in Albany, there comes a point where the decline becomes irreversible. We're not there yet. I still believe in this great city and state, but I am really concerned what could happen in Albany come January.
Now, there's supposed to be checks and balances. One check and balance is the Speaker of the City Council. The second is the Governor, Hochul. And the third is President Trump. Do you think that things are going to be under control?
You're absolutely right. There should be checks and balances, but we have a one-party government in the city. We have a one-party government in Albany. Now, Mondami wants to raise taxes. New York City cannot raise taxes without Albany's approval. But given the nature of the makeup of the politics in Albany, they might well approve it. And even if they don't, they might just go raise state taxes without even asking to raise New York City taxes. So there's not much President Trump can do about it. It's the city and state's ability to decide its own course of action. You've seen states like California and others just continue to raise taxes and drive people out, and I fear that could be the case in New York. We just have to rise up now and make it plain. Enough is enough. We can't afford higher taxes again. You've got to stop, or this city and this state are not going to have the future they should.
Is there anybody strong enough to stand up for it?
We'll have to see. I still wish that we had a two-party system. We had it in Albany for decades, and it worked very well. But with the Democrats in full control of everything in Albany, I don't know if there's someone willing to stand up and say, we have got to stop this. I fear there might not be. The best hope is that Governor Hochul will say, no, she said all this year, no new taxes, no new taxes, no new taxes. Now Mandami wins, and she says, well, maybe we have to raise taxes. And if she does that, I think she will have really disappointed a great many New Yorkers who had hopes that she would stand in the way of higher taxes and more people and businesses just leaving New York State. You know, John, I spent the last weekend down in Texas visiting my son and his kids. Texas is booming. You know, everything seems new, shiny. Everywhere you see growth. You look around New York, and with a few exceptions, you see things that are older, that are not kept up to date. And if we keep raising taxes, it's just going to get worse.
Governor, I spent all day Wednesday, and that's where I got my sore throat starting last Wednesday. I gave three press conferences and a speech in Florida. And Florida is growing at leaps and bounds.
It's the same with Texas. They're both growing. They both have no income tax at all, zero. New York is way too high, and now they're talking about raising it again. So, John, take care of yourself. We need you. You're a force for good in this city and state and country. Don't go giving too many speeches and damaging your throat, but at least stand up now and let Governor Hochul know we're counting on her to say no new taxes in Albany. Otherwise, the decline will just continue.
Governor George Pataki, thank you for speaking your mind, and God bless you and God bless New York.
Thank you, John, and thank you for fighting the fight. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is the former head of the Liberal Party in the city of New York, Martin Hasner. And Martin, people don't know the difference between the Liberal Party and the new Democratic Socialist Party. What is happening to New York and to America?
Okay, first of all, I'm not the former head. I'm still the head. I'm an older head of the Liberal Party. Okay, keep my hair carefully gray. All right, and that's it.
For the last 20 years, I always enjoyed working side by side with you.
Yes, well, it was always a pleasure. It's always going to be a pleasure because you do think, and that's the problem we have today, John. You and I were educated in a different time. We learned. The school systems of America for the last 30 years have stopped teaching the way we were taught. That's the beginning. Now, the difference between the Democratic Party and the Democratic Socialists and the Liberal Party is simply a matter of name and idea. The Democratic Socialists were formed 40 years ago by a brilliant socialist who understood this simple fact. New York and America would never be socialist. Never. And what he did, and all he did, was form not a political party like the Liberal Party and the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, but an organization. The Democratic Socialists of America are not a political party. They do not have a political line. They are an organization. And he understood that he wanted a left wing for the Democratic Party, a left wing. Now, we understand that. Republicans have wings. Democrats have wings. That's the way things work. The Liberal Party was formed for not to be a wing, but to be a separate party. It was America's first, and it's still the longest-running third party in American history. Democratic Socialists are an organization. Unfortunately, Michael Harrington, who formed it 40 years ago, died before he could do anything with it. And so the Democratic Socialists remained silent for almost 40 years. They are now run by a bunch of very aggressive, young 24-year-olds educated in America. That's the key. It's not what they're called, it's what they know and what they don't know. And now we have a mayor who until just a few years ago was an immigrant, not an American citizen, who learned a whole lot about what it's like to be an immigrant in America, and it ain't easy, and it never has been. Now, you understand that very well from your own background, and I understand it from my mom and dad, okay, but not from reality, okay? And Zoran has learned it from reality, and you heard it in his victory speech. It was not a speech of a delighted young man. It was the speech of an angry young man. He has ideas, none of which anyone believes he can make true, but he's going to try. And those of us who care about New York will try, too, to help keep him straight and to help keep him realizing that just because you want something doesn't mean you can get it.
Tell us the difference between the Liberal Party and the Democratic Socialist Party.
The difference is simply one is a party and one is not. Very important to understand that.
And how about philosophy?
The difference is this. The liberals want a great deal of people running this country. Not special interests, not super rich, not super powerful. That's what they want. And we have worked for it for all these 80 years. What does that mean? That means we want teachers with a decent salary. That means we want workers to have unions that are strong and honest, that care for the worker instead of the people who run the unions. That means we want a fair reality in job selection and in the hours people work. That means we want decent rents. That means we want decent prices. We want those things. There's nothing socialist about any of that. That was what the New Deal was about. That was what FDR did. He tried to make a more even economy, one that represented everybody. And that's exactly what liberals want. Now, what do socialists want? Well, to be blunt, okay, and William Buckley found this out when he used to talk to Norman Thomas. Your older listeners will remember that. They love those conversations because that's what Norman Thomas wanted, an equality, a reality that says people can work, that we have an opportunity in America like no other country in the history of the world. And that opportunity meant a level of fairness and justice and the reality that you could earn a living, you could send your kids to college, you could go on vacations, you can own a car, you could live like a human being, not week to week. This country has moved in the week-to-week reality, and you know that 10% of this country...
A big number.
10%.
Like, what is it, 80% of the countries live in week to week?
And we know now that 10% of the people own 80% of this country. And we know that's wrong. We know it in our hearts and our minds. So the difference is very subtle.
What was the number 50 years ago, 25 years ago, and now?
I haven't got a clue. I would only make it up and lie to you. I don't know the clue. I only know this. After World War II, a lot of things changed. Women went to work. And the whole reality of our homes and our families changed. And I also know this. Once upon a time, guys like you and I were educated, wonderfully educated by the best public education system the world has ever known. And people still from China and across the world and India, the biggest nations in the world, the largest nations in the world, send their young people to this country to go to college and learn and become professionals. That's still true. But on a lower level, it's not true. No one is learning anything anymore. And so it's easy for people to get lost in the flow of American life, to get squeezed in an economy that doesn't help give them what they want.
So what is the answer?
The answer is to elect political people who understand exactly what this is about. That if we don't make America more equal, if we don't educate our children, we're dead. And that is the rule of the world. History says every great nation, including Great Britain, which once owned the world, including Italy, which used to own a piece of the world too, John, and Greece, all of those countries lost their power because they took over their countries by not educating their children, which is exactly what's happening now. No education means ignorance. Ignorance means no common sense. And so as the country gets to be more and more for the rich and less for the people, we're going to have organizations like the Democratic Socialists which try to win some of that back. Now, whether they have the ability to do that or not remains to be seen. When you elect a mayor who has absolutely no experience in anything, when you elect a mayor who says openly, I haven't got a clue about education, how the hell is he supposed to make education in New York any better? You can't do that and expect reality when education is so critically important that you and I took it for granted, but we can't take it for granted anymore.
Martin Hasno, we're out of time, but this conversation, we should continue. Thank you so much for coming on this Sunday morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Steve Cates, Dr. Sky, like we do every weekend. Steve Cates knows. What the heck is going on up there?
Well, good morning, John. Happy Sunday and happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas. But, John, we go to an asteroid called Bennu. Now, many people have never heard of it. Bennu, it's named after an Egyptian god, a bird. It's about the size of the Empire State Building and discovered in 1999. But a spacecraft, John, called OSIRIS-REx actually scooped up about 4.3 ounces and brought it back to the Earth. So here's the amazing story about it. It contains many organic molecules from the pre-solar system. But, John, it's also alleged to have found the amino acids of tryptophan, which is the stuff that they say makes you sleepy after you eat turkey. Now, isn't that an incredible story? That even out in the universe, many of these organic molecules still exist from billions of years ago. That's an amazing story.
It is amazing. You know why? We always talk about what the Archbishop told me at one time. Why should our Creator, God, Creator, whatever you want to call him, only left his molecules or only left his seeds on one planet? Likelihood is he left it on so many planets.
You're so right. And those astronomers and religious folks, of course, great respect, because, John, the simple thing is so many billions and trillions of stars. Who's to say we're the only life form out there? And the beat goes on. But here's something also interesting. This past week, we've seen the largest sunspot group in the last 10 years, and maybe rivaling the most massive one back in 1859 that created, John, this incredible X45 on the X scale flare, which caused tremendous disruptions. The jury's still out as to what that may do to us. But again, solar cycle 25, John, is nowhere finished. It's probably got another 2 years to go, so keep your eyes to the skies, right? That's incredible stuff. We go on, John, to the mystery of the week, and you actually helped me on this one. This is an interesting one. I've done some research. What is it? The Vatican archives suggest the most incredible story of an ancient time machine known as a chronovisor, a device brought to the attention of the Vatican by an Italian monk, Pellegrino Ernetti, which allegedly could capture past events through the space-time continuum. But, John, that's amazing if it's even true. But if it's not, it would sure make an incredible sci-fi story, don't you think? Amazing what they have hidden in the Vatican.
I'm sure they have a lot of stuff hidden. But it's mind-boggling that something like that is available. I mean, you could only see it on Star Trek.
You're right. And there's one that's closer to home, John. How about this one? More in the reality realm is the amazing Greek mechanical bronze computer known as the Antikythera mechanism. It was discovered by divers in 1900. Well, John, this is an amazing time machine. It's like a big bronze, big wheel, like an early computer that you turn the different dials. And according to the way this was set up, even modern-day scientists say, that's incredible because, John, it predicted not computers, it predicted eclipses, celestial events, and even the dates of future Olympic Games. Now, that's incredible because it's probably the first analog computer. We're going back, John, thousands of years. So the technology then, with this, the Antikythera mechanism, That's an amazing alleged discovery of something that we had no idea existed.
It goes back to who helped them understand that, and goes back to who really built the pyramids.
John, those mysteries are amazing, and that's why we appreciate the opportunity for the listeners to tune in on the weekends for the Dr. Sky Experience, talking not only about these great realms, but, John, celebrity guests and people and stories of American exceptionalism. And let us not forget, John, 84 years ago on this date, the anniversary of the Pearl Harbor attack on the United States. Let us never forget these stories of history and how America fought back and won in a war that they didn't start. So amazing as we talk on Sunday, December the 7th, 2025. And finally, in closing, if we turn our attention to the skies, get set in about another week, like next Sunday, the amazing Geminid meteor shower. That's going to be interesting. We'll talk more about that and things that people can see. What? To keep expanding our minds about the great mysteries of the universe, things that we probably don't talk about during our daytime lifestyles, and more to come, John. Always amazing.
God bless. With us is Hank Shankoff, long-time Democratic strategist. You know, for those of us who want to stay in New York, what's in store for us, Hank?
Well, thank you. First, John, thank you, and thank you to all your listeners for listening this morning. Look, it is a very difficult time for New York and for cities around the country. The Democratic Socialists mean exactly what they say, and there are some people who walk around and say, well, they really don't mean it. But the problem in our politics is that because we're such wonderful people, Americans, and we're so naive, we tend to say, oh, they really don't mean it. Well, listen to what the Democratic Socialists are saying and understand that they do mean it. And what that change will be, we've yet to see, but it won't be good for the things that a lot of us hold important.
Have you seen any progress? You're going to have a Jewish speaker, it looks like, of the city council, and you still have Governor Hochul in Albany, and you still have President Trump in Washington. Do you think there's enough checks and balances to make sure that the new mayor of January 1st does the right job?
Well, the real checks and balances, John, aren't necessarily those elected officials, but the fact that he's walking into a city with a significant budget problem, significant gap, a state that is likely to have a significant gap, and those will put checks on the kind of spending he wants to do. The problem is, what can he do besides that to damage the police department? He's already talked about cutting 1,000 cops. That would be a disaster. We're down lots of cops. And the nation will be looking to what happens here in New York. If they see that this Democratic social experiment is not working, more people are going to leave New York. We've already seen a tremendous exodus of jobs related to the financial sector into the Dallas-Fort Worth corridor and into Houston. Anything can happen here. We are at a point of real concern. New Yorkers should be anxious. People who care about the city should be anxious, and people who care about the American future should be very, very anxious.
I was down in Florida the other day, and Florida is booming.
Florida's booming. It's been booming for years. Why? The average person is probably saving 12% plus on taxes. That's only part of it. You don't have the crime. You don't have the chaos. You don't have the absolute anxiety. And you don't have the anti-Semitism that's rampant. It always begins with the Jews, John, but it never ends with the Jews. People should pay attention to what's happening in Nigeria today, where Christians are being murdered on a daily basis. They should look at the future and the past of Coptic Christians in Egypt, who were once the majority, who are not that anymore. They ought to be looking at what's going on in Sudan, or thinking about the 300,000 people that were murdered in Yemen, or the 600,000 people that were murdered in Syria, and stop focusing so much on Israel. It's a way to distract people from the real problem.
Is there anybody in the leadership of the National Democratic Party that is strong enough to take control?
It doesn't appear that way yet. I mean, there is a generational problem within the Democratic hierarchy, and there's also a basic ideological problem. It's not the Democratic Party you once knew, because the labor base that sustained it doesn't exist anymore. We don't have that many people in organized labor. Labor served as an enforcement mechanism within the Democrat Party. It's not there anymore. So who's going to try to turn this into something that works? Who's got the capacity to do that, and who's the loudest voice? We don't know yet. But the battle between the Bernie Sanders wing and everybody else is a very significant one. It's the left versus the center and the Democrats. And who is the Bill Clinton of this generation that can save the Democrats by pulling them back to the center? We don't know who that person is yet. And frankly, John, we don't know if that person really exists.
Well, Hank Shankoff, I guess we should continue talking every week and just until we find a solution.
If we have chaos and if we cannot correct the tax code and the other things that are causing some of the chaos we're experiencing, this country will be a very different place long after you and I are gone, John, and it won't be the kind of country that we would have wanted our children to see and the kind of country we wanted to have left behind.
Hank Shankoff, what I'm worried about, Rome made it for 800 years. I'm not sure the United States will make it for 300.
God should protect this extraordinary nation, which has made citizens throughout the world into one creed. You see, the damage, John, I close it up this way, is being done not to what America stands for, but what the creed of America stands for, which is opportunity and possibility and equality for people, no matter where they come from, who they are. And that is being lost in this schism of faith and anger and hatred. And frankly, it cannot sustain itself over time. It just can't.
Traditionally, in the United States of America, immigrants came in that wanted to assimilate and become Americans. Right now, migrants are coming in that are considered invaders and want to change it to their way of life, not the American way of life.
That's true. Even if we restored civics, I don't know if we could change that. I mean, if you look at what happened in Michigan, Michigan City a few weeks back, where a non-Muslim was chastised for demanding to have things work in an American kind of way as opposed to a religious kind of way. The beauty of America is that religion was part of, and practice thereof was part of our freedom and part of our ability, but to dominate others was not. And that is the crisis we face, John. Simple and clear. Is that going to be resolved or not?
Hank Shankoff, let's continue the conversation. Thank you for coming on this Sunday morning.
Thank you, John, and thank you to your listeners.
Thank you.
The Cats Roundtable.
John Terrett that gives us a report on how the markets are doing. Well, what the heck is going on, John?
John, good Sunday morning to you. The big story of the week happened only on Friday when Netflix announced it was buying Warner Brothers Discovery for $72 billion, creating a huge streaming company. Netflix getting together with HBO Max. But the important thing is Netflix gets its hands on some amazing franchises like Harry Potter and Game of Thrones. They beat out Comcast and Paramount, Skydance, CBS. They also get a Hollywood studio, which they badly need. They are not buying CNN and TNT, those two companies going into a different firm, which will be known as Discovery Global. It all depends on the regulators, of course. That could take 12 to 14 months. So now it's over to the lawyers. We'll see what happens. Meta Platforms up 4% on Thursday after a report came out saying that Mark Zuckerberg is rowing back from his beloved metaverse, where we all live in this sort of digital world. The report says that Meta Platforms is cutting its budget for the metaverse by up to 30%. It was Zuckerberg's big pet project a couple of years ago. Remember, he changed the name of Facebook to Meta Platforms because of that. Our own dear Macy's up 6% when their earnings came out earlier in the week, last week, but they did close down 1% on Wednesday, even though they made a surprise profit as an overhaul being instituted by their new boss at 34th Street and Broadway goes on. Delta Airlines up 4% on Wednesday. They took a $200 million hit because of the government shutdown. They also forecast strong travel ahead in 2026, which is why the share price was up 4%. Crypto story of the week, your friend Brian Moynihan at Bank of America is expanding crypto access for wealthy clients. And John, the week ahead, it's all about the Federal Reserve. The meeting begins on Tuesday. The decision comes on Wednesday at 2 p.m. A 25 basis point cut is pretty much guaranteed, despite everything you and I have been talking about over the last month or so with those kind of warnings and those hints that there wouldn't be one from Chairman Powell. 98% of Wall Street thinks there will be a 25 basis point cut now on Wednesday. And what Chairman Powell says won't really matter because Wall Street is now focused on his replacement, who is likely to be the NEC chair, the chief economic advisor to the president, Kevin Hassett, who wants the job. John.
Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, John. See you next week. Thank you.
Thank you for being with us for the Cats Roundtable Local Edition, the #1 show on Sunday mornings in New York. Keep listening to us for the Cats Roundtable National Edition between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So we'll be back to you in a few minutes after the news.
Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.